He didn't say it angrily. That was the part that hurt the most. We were sitting across from each other at a small cafe we'd been going to for years, the kind of place where the barista already knew our orders and never asked if we wanted sugar. The afternoon light spilled in through the window, soft and ordinary, completely unaware that my life was about to split into before and after. My name is Lily. He wrapped both hands around his cup, staring into it as if the answer might rise up in the steam. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I can't marry you. I waited. Not because I didn't hear him, but because I expected more. An explanation that made sense. A reason that didn't feel like a door slamming shut without warning. He inhaled slowly. My parents are against it. Against what? Against us? I opened my mouth, then closed it again. They don't think. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. They don't think you'd fit into our family. Fit. That word again. I forced myself to stay still. Why? He looked up at me for the first time. His eyes were tired, conflicted, but not unsure. They think you come from too little, he said. They're worried about expectations. Lifestyle. Stability. I nodded once. Too little. Not unkind. Not loud. Just final. I had grown up hearing versions of that word my entire life. Too simple. Too small. Too ordinary. I had learned how to carry it without flinching. What did you tell them? I asked. He swallowed. That you're hardworking. That you're smart. That money isn't everything. And? I pressed. And they said love doesn't survive pressure, he replied. That marriage isn't just between two people. The sentence hung between us. I stared at the table, tracing the faint scratch near the edge with my finger. And you agree? He didn't answer right away. I don't want to fight my parents, he said finally. I can't go against them. There it was. Not I don't love you. Not I'm unsure. Just, I won't choose you. I leaned back in my chair, surprised by how calm I felt. How long have you known this? I asked. He hesitated again. Too long. Since the dinner, he admitted. When they met you. I remembered that dinner clearly. His mother's polite smile. His father's careful questions. The way their eyes lingered on my clothes just a moment too long. The way the conversation turned toward investments, property, family connections. Things I didn't have. They asked what your parents did, he continued. Where you lived. What you planned long term. And that was enough? I asked softly. They were just concerned, he said quickly. They didn't mean to judge. I smiled faintly. They did judge. He looked away. Outside, cars passed. People laughed. Someone dropped a spoon and apologized. Life continued, indifferent to the fact that something fragile was breaking quietly at a corner table. So this is it? I asked. He nodded. I didn't want to end things this way. But you are, I replied. I'm sorry, he said again. I stood up slowly. My legs felt steady. My hands didn't shake. I hope you get everything your parents want for you, I said. He reached out instinctively, then stopped himself. Lily, I don't hate you, I added. But I won't beg. I walked out before he could respond. The first night was the hardest. Not because I cried uncontrollably, but because my mind kept replaying the same sentence over and over, searching for a place where I could have said something different. My parents won't accept someone like you. Someone like me. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when love had become conditional, and why I had been the one expected to meet the conditions. The next few weeks passed in a blur of routine. Work. Home. Silence. Friends noticed something was off. I brushed it aside. We broke up, I said simply. No details. No explanations. At work, I focused harder than ever. I volunteered for projects no one wanted. I stayed late. I learned things outside my role. I became indispensable without meaning to. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. My world had shrunk overnight, and I needed to rebuild it with something solid. One evening, my mother called. You sound tired, she said. I am, I admitted. Heart tired or body tired? She asked gently. I paused. Both. She didn't press. She never had. I didn't tell my parents why he left. I didn't want their sympathy or their anger. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about him. It was about a truth I had avoided for too long. Love that needs permission isn't love. And acceptance that depends on status isn't acceptance. Months later, I heard he was engaged. Not through him. Through someone else. A mutual acquaintance mentioned it casually. His parents adore her, she said. She's from a good family. I smiled politely and changed the subject. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, city noise humming outside. I thought about the girl he was marrying. I wondered if she knew the conditions attached to his affection, or if she fit them so perfectly she'd never notice. I didn't feel jealous. I felt free. Because for the first time, I understood something clearly. I hadn't lost a future. I had been spared a lifetime of being measured. And somewhere in that realization, something inside me began to shift. Rebuilding doesn't announce itself with motivation or clarity. It begins with showing up on days when you don't feel impressive. With choosing progress over explanation. With learning how to sit alone without turning loneliness into shame. That was my life for a long time. I didn't glow up overnight. I didn't reinvent myself in some cinematic way. I just kept going. At work, people started noticing before I did. A project I'd volunteered for, one everyone else had avoided, ended up saving the team from a costly mistake. My manager thanked me publicly. I nodded, embarrassed, and went back to my desk. A few weeks later, I was asked to lead something. Just temporarily, my manager said. Until we find someone permanent. I smiled. Of course. Temporary turned into trusted. Trusted turned into relied upon. For the first time in my life, I wasn't being evaluated on where I came from, but on what I delivered. That changed everything. Outside of work, my world stayed small on purpose. I declined invitations that felt performative. I stopped scrolling through lives that triggered comparisons. I learned how to cook meals that felt grounding. How to enjoy silence without narrating it. Occasionally, his name surfaced. Not in my thoughts, but in conversations I couldn't control. He seems happy, someone said once. His parents are thrilled, someone else added. I never asked questions. I didn't need details. Because I'd stopped measuring my worth against someone else's approval. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message I hadn't expected. It was from him. I hope you're doing well. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I am. I hope you are too. That could have been the end of it. But it wasn't. I heard about your promotion, he wrote. Congratulations. So he knew. That didn't surprise me. What surprised me was the tightness in my chest, not from longing, but from clarity. Thank you, I replied. I worked hard for it. There was a pause. I always knew you would. I almost laughed. Always knew. When? Before or after his parents decided I wasn't enough. I didn't respond. Days later, he tried again. Can we talk sometime? I considered it. Not emotionally, but practically. What would talking give either of us? Closure? I already had that. But curiosity won. Sure, I replied. Coffee. 1 hour. We met at a cafe neither of us had been to before. Neutral territory. He looked the same, well-dressed, composed, slightly guarded. But something in his posture had shifted. He wasn't relaxed. He was careful. You look good, he said. So do you, I replied, and meant it. We talked about safe things at first. Work. Travel. Surface-level updates. Then he said it. My parents ask about you sometimes. I raised an eyebrow. Do they? Yes, he said. They're surprised. By what? By how well you're doing. There it was. The delayed recognition. They didn't expect it, he added quietly. I stirred my coffee slowly. Neither did you. He didn't deny it. They were wrong, he said. About you. I looked at him then. Really looked. And what about you? I asked. Were you wrong too? He swallowed. I was afraid. Of them? I asked. Of choosing wrong, he replied. I nodded. You did choose. He leaned forward. If things were different now. No, I said gently. He froze. I'm not angry, I continued. But I won't be an exception you regret missing. I'm not a lesson. He leaned back, eyes searching my face. You don't even want to hear what I came to say? I already know, I replied. You came to see if I still fit. The silence stretched. I added. Not anymore. When we parted, there were no raised voices. No dramatic exit. Just two people walking in different directions, finally honestly. A month later, I received an unexpected invitation. His engagement party. I laughed when I saw it. Not bitterly. Amazed. I didn't respond. And that finally was noticed. Mutual acquaintances began asking questions. Are you okay? Wasn't that hard for you? Don't you feel awkward? I smiled politely. No, I said. I feel finished. Because something had shifted not in how they saw me, but in how I saw myself. I had built a life without needing approval from people who required permission to love me. And once that happened, something else followed. Respect. Not from everyone, but from the right places. The invitation arrived in a thick envelope, heavier than it needed to be. I recognized the handwriting immediately. His mother's. Not printed. Not delegated. Written. I didn't open it right away. I set it on the counter and went about my evening, cooking dinner, answering emails, folding laundry. Letting it exist without letting it decide my mood. When I finally did open it, the message was formal, almost rehearsed. They would be honored if I attended a small family gathering. They hoped there were no hard feelings. They had heard so many good things about me lately. Lately. That word carried weight. I declined. Politely. Briefly. Without explanation. 2 days later, his mother called. I hope this isn't inappropriate, she said carefully. We just wanted to clear the air. I understand, I replied. We didn't know you back then, she continued. We were worried about compatibility. I smiled to myself. You knew enough to decide. She paused. We were wrong. I waited. You've done very well, she added. We admire that. Admire. Not accept. Not apologize. Admire from a distance. I appreciate the sentiment, I said. But I'm not available. There it was again, confusion. Not anger. Not offense. Confusion. Because people who expect access are rarely prepared for refusal. A week later, I ran into him at an event neither of us could avoid. The room buzzed with polite conversation and clinking glasses. When he saw me, he hesitated, then approached. You look settled, he said. I am, I replied. He nodded slowly. I've been thinking about us. I figured, I said. If I had stood up to them. You didn't, I said gently. And that matters more than hypotheticals. He swallowed. They respect you now. That's the problem, I replied. They only learned respect after seeing results. He looked away. You don't owe anyone proof, he said quietly. I know that now. I met his eyes. I know that too. We stood there for a moment, two people finally aligned, just far too late. I hope you're happy, he said. I am, I replied. And for the first time, it wasn't something I said to be kind. It was true. In the months that followed, my life continued to expand. Not loudly, not dramatically, but securely. I took on more responsibility at work. I moved into a better place. I built routines that felt like mine. I dated again, slowly, carefully. With boundaries I hadn't known how to articulate before. One evening, my mother visited. We sat at my kitchen table, sipping tea. You seem lighter, she said. I am, I replied. She hesitated. Do you ever regret it? That relationship? I thought about it honestly. No, I said. I regret almost choosing a life where love came with conditions. She nodded, understanding more than she used to. Before she left, she hugged me tightly. I'm proud of you. I believed her. But I didn't need it. That was the difference. Looking back, I see it clearly now. He didn't leave because I was poor. His parents didn't reject me because I lacked worth. They rejected me because I didn't fit a system that needed hierarchy to feel secure. And I walked away because I refused to spend my life proving I deserved to stand at the table. I didn't get married that year. I didn't win anyone back. I didn't rewrite the past. I did something quieter and far more permanent. I chose myself. And in doing so, I built a future no one could veto.